So I would like to talk to you for a moment about boats. We use this metaphor in the work that I do because it's a really non-judgmental metaphor. It's a great way to kind of summarize sort of how to get in touch with the things that I feel like are really significant when it comes to resiliency. And again, I made kind of a little sort of snidey comment about the word resiliency. I don't know about you guys in your culture. We named this the Center for Resiliency back in 2016 when nobody was really using that word. Now everybody uses that word. It's kind of like mindfulness. It's like, and people are like, resiliency, you want me to be resilient so I can work harder for you. Thank you so much. Love you too. Yeah. But so just don't let that word lose you because, or make you think that I'm not recognizing the systemic factors of this, because I am. And we really look at that. I have lots of conversations with the leadership at my hospital and really around the country around these kind of topics. So, but there are three aspects of, like, I like to say that I think if we can get in touch with as ourselves, we become better at functioning within broken systems to hopefully bring about change. There was a time I worked in the adult world in chaplaincy for a while. Then I left and did some overseas work. Then I came back into the peds world. And so I've been on both sides of all of those experiences. And what was I going to say about that? I was distracted by the no whiteboard. This idea that it's happening at all the levels. I know what it was. In the tween, I was doing community organizing. I don't know if anybody's ever been a community organizer, but in community organizing, you can come from the bottom up, from the grassroots, or you can come from the top down and kind of change. And in the work I do, we try to come from both directions because I want change to happen as quickly as we can. And you gotta have to have conversations up here and you got to have conversations down here. So what I'm going to introduce you to today, and if you've heard it before with me, then maybe it'll be a refresher, but is something you can use for yourself, but you can also use it with your team. Like you can also use it with your hospice team or your palliative team. And you can go, hey man, we're going to teach this metaphor. Let's all play around with this as we do this work going forward. So let's talk about boats for a moment. So if I could draw you a boat, I would draw you a boat. I think I probably, yeah. I can pull up a slide. Hold on a second. I got a cool slide for this. Yeah. Okay. And I can share that. All right. Let me do it that way. There's always another way to, we used to say skin a cat, but that's not always good. Can you see that? Okay, cool. We're looking at my boat. So what do you see when you look at a boat? What else does boats need to have? If I was drawing it, I would put on, what else can you put on that boat? What else is it missing? You can just holler it out or put it in the chat. What do we need to have on this boat if I were drawing?
People.
People, yep. A lot of people. A rudder. Water, yep. What else? You might have, I mean, we're Alliance, right? You might have margaritas. What'd you say?
Life jackets.
Life jackets, yep. You're a safety person. You've worked with those. We've done a lot of quality and safety at our hospital for sure. Yeah, so there's things like that. So we're just kind of thinking about boats. I'm just going to be playful with this. So yeah, we're playing with this boat idea. There's something on a boat that goes across the hull. And I said the word a second ago, and Terry knows what it is, but what goes across the hull of a boat? I'm going to show you a boat right now. You see that little line? You see it's red on the bottom and then black on the top? What is it? What is that called? Or there's that white line. You see the white line across the blue hull of that boat? What is that called? Anybody that doesn't know from me? Any clue? Or what do you think it's for? What do you think it's measuring? Oh, there's somebody in the chat. And okay, Anchor, go ahead.
How deep in the water the boat is floating?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's that simple. Like sometimes you're like, is the answer Jesus? You know, no. Yeah, you know, I mean, in Sunday school class, that was, we know as kids, we'd always go, it's Jesus, right? But anyway, but no, it's super simple. It's like how low the boat's sitting in the water. That's exactly what it is. And so people call it a water line. You can look at it really quickly and you can go, oh, there's the water line, the boat's sitting. And that's what you can see by looking at these two boats. Believe it or not, every boat you go to, that you go on, has one of these lines. And sometimes it's more obvious than others. Sometimes the hull's a different color. It's pretty obvious and you can see it quickly. But everybody has one. And I love telling the story about why. It happened, there was back in the 1700s, there was a guy named Samuel Plimsoll. So that was his name, Plimsoll. What a great name. And he had a problem. He's a social justice activist. Love those. I'm an alliance person. I'm social justice. That's my life. I love it's big time, a big part of my values. But what was happening was these boats were coming across from Britain to the New World, and they were overloading the boats because they had insurance on the boats. And the merchants didn't care if the boat sank, they got the insurance money. So nobody cared. Yay! But who lost out if the boat sank?
People on it.
Right? Absolutely. People died. People were on the boat, died. They drowned. And the merchants didn't care because they had insurance money. Wink, wink, nod, nod, insurance, healthcare. You can see all the innuendos with this kind of metaphor, but yeah. And so Samuel Plimsoll went to the British Parliament and he said, this is not okay. And we have to change this. And so what he asked for was a line to be drawn on a boat so that you could know if it was sitting too low in the water. And if the boat was sitting really low in the water, you couldn't see the line. If the boat was sitting pretty nicely in the water, you could see the line. And if it was sitting pretty high, then it wasn't that heavy. But if it was sitting really low in the water, it meant it had too much cargo. And they either needed to get back to safe harbor. I don't know if you know that term in healthcare, but safe harbor, which means that you're not safe, needs to get back to harbor and unload some cargo, but we need to do something before the boat went across to the world. Now, some of us want to believe that we're riding on this kind of boat, maybe. He has a little line on his. You see that one? It's like the yacht has it too. He's sitting pretty cool in the water. But I don't know about some of you, but some of us are feeling like this. Anybody feeling like this lately? Maybe that's what Terry was describing when she left healthcare. Because yeah, I mean, this is also part of the struggle that we're going through is that we're all in these boats. I'm going to quit sharing because I want to see you guys and stay connected to you. And this is important to me. So yeah, Samuel Plimsoll was like, dude, we got to put lines on boats. We need to know if they're sitting too low. How do you know if, let me just tell you this part. So there was an ER doc she's on the East Coast now, and she has a TED talk on this. I can send you the link if you want to watch it. I didn't even see the TED talk before I started teaching this, but she had this article I read in a medical journal about, wouldn't it be cool if in healthcare we all had lines on our foreheads and we could look at each other and go, Wanda's overloaded, can't see the line. Yep. Or Terry needs to go get to safe harbor. She's not okay. We need to unload some cargo off of her boat. And we were talking about this and we were like, we need to move that line a little lower because if it's here, I've already drowned. So if it's lower, how do you know when you look at somebody, a colleague, a chaplain, a nurse, that they're overloaded? How do you know? What's going on with them? And you talk to me a little bit. How do you know if someone's overloaded?
Just the expression on their face.
Yeah, and you can tell even with masks. Eyes show a lot. Okay, so a lot of times expression on the face. Yep. How else do you know when someone's overloaded?
Shoulders at the ears, that tightness, that constriction.
Yep. And sometimes that's how I know because I'm like, oh, yep. How else do you know?
Yeah, lack of focus, ability to do your job well. Yeah. And yep, this is good. All right. Yeah. Lack of focus. You're like, I can't seem to get where I'm supposed to go. Yeah. What else?
Restlessness.
Breathlessness. Yeah. Oh, breathlessness.
This is sleepy, or you can see the signs that the person is not sleeping well, not having enough time off, or not taking lunch breaks or breaks every now and then.
Yep. Okay.
People are angry.
Oh, I wondered if anybody's going to come up with that one, Aileen. Yes. People get angry and irritable and snippy. That's how I get. My team will be like, what's going on, Krista? I'm like, what? You think I'm upset? But yeah, people get snippy and they get irritable and you start noticing that. There's something no one's named yet. Anybody have another reaction that maybe doesn't sound the same as any of these? Lynn, you're unmuted. You got one?
People sometimes appear to be withdrawn.
Bingo. Yes. So it's so interesting with this. When you're overloaded, you can be in your face angry or you can be withdrawn. It can be opposite reactions, but it depends on the person. And for me, sometimes it depends on what it is. I can be both, it depends on what my issue is. So yeah, so when we're in this, when we're a little overloaded, when we got too much cargo on our boats, And I like to say in healthcare, you can't always control the cargo that gets stuck on your boat. Just saying. It's not like in your personal life where you can say, yeah, we're not having a gourmet dinner tonight, we're having pizza. You know, sometimes your manager, your leader, your hospital just took on, you know, we got people in the hallways. We did at our hospital a few months ago. You can't really control it. So it is something to be aware of, that sometimes you just know that you got too much cargo on the boat. So irritability, withdrawal, snappy, missing days of work. Yonka was like, and I'm not saying your name right, I want to say it right. That withdrawal, that also sleepiness and that kind of thing. Do you know what your tell is? I told you what my tell is. I tend to get irritable. Is there anything that we haven't named that you're like, I know what my tell is? Like poker, like people look at you and they're like, she's not okay. Or he's not okay. Anything you heard, or they're not okay? Okay, maybe we covered them all. But what I'd like to offer is I don't always know when I'm underwater. And that goes back to what we said at the beginning, this idea as Baptists, perhaps, that I'm not always in touch with what's going on with me. And sometimes I need my team to help me or to point out when I'm doing something. So what we've sort of talked about, though, is when we're overloaded, and you notice I didn't say overwhelmed. I deliberately didn't use that word because overwhelm implies weakness. And I think as chaplains, we can handle that word. But if you were teaching this to somebody else, like doctors or surgeons, they'd be like, I'm never overwhelmed. I'm always fine. But are they overloaded? Yeah, absolutely. So I'm deliberately using the word overloaded, but our thinking begins to change. We get kind of edgy. We have trouble focusing, which is what Alan said. We can get kind of negative. Everything looks awful. We can be kind of hopeless. Our physical stuff changes. Wanda said that, like my shoulders go up. You know, Yonka said, I don't sleep very well. Maybe we eat too much, drink too much. I end up walking around my office and finding chocolate. Like, you know, I'm not, because and people know, they see like, oh, she's in her afternoon walk. That's what's going on with Krista. Yep. Because they know that's one of my tells. And then emotions change. We can get, no one said this, but sometimes we get tearful. Yeah. Frustrated more quickly, really apathetic. So where is your line right now? This is sort of a rhetorical question, but where is your line on your boat today? And maybe that's why you came to this session today, is you're like, because I'm underwater. And that's what we're going to talk about today a little bit, is how to work with that and what that looks like. We're going to talk about a little bit more about how to be selective about what you put on your boat. And maybe not today, but we will get into it in the other two sessions. Like, how can I also say to someone I'm working with, hey, I need to take this cargo off, or even to our partners at home, or what that looks like. I was teaching this to a group of nurses in another city, and they said, can you teach this to she was saying to herself, can you teach this to my husband? Because he doesn't know why I'm like this. But sometimes that's the issue. So we're going to talk about some of that today. But I want to take you through, one of the things that's really important to me is to give you really practical tools you can use on the fly in the moment. And the first one we're going to talk about is the Plimsoll line check-in. I like to call it a check-in because it's like taking your phone and going, man, I get any calls, text messages. Okay, we're just going to do a quick check-in on ourselves. And this is something I do almost daily. And if I don't, sometimes my people around me remind me, where's your Plimsoll line today, Krista? But we're going to do a quick check-in. And I'm going to ask you to be playful with it and just kind of be curious. You can close your eyes if you want. You don't have to. You can look at the sky. I don't really care. I just want you're going to do a little internal focus for this particular tool that I'm going to teach you. So to start off with, you can take a couple deep breaths. Deep breaths are good. I'll talk about that another time if you want to, about why, but it really affects us neurologically. I just came from a neuroscience conference last weekend. I didn't understand a thing they said, but I did understand a few things. But yeah, deep breaths are good. Take a couple deep breaths. We're just going to focus on ourselves for a moment. I just want you to notice right now where you are in this exact moment, not, in your life developmentally, but just today at 12:35 or 1:35 or whatever time frame. I want you to look down metaphorically. Where is your boat sitting in the water? Where is your boat sitting in the water? Where's your water line? Are you underwater? Are you sitting pretty nicely? Do you feel pretty good? Or, where are you sitting? The first step is just to get aware, like just to go, okay, what's going on with me? You can ask yourself, what does my body feel like right now? Speaking of bodies, like, oh, like Wanda was talking about shoulders creeping up. Like, oh, what am I feeling like right now? Maybe his shoulders are kind of tight. Maybe my jaw is sort of tight because I've been holding back from speaking as a chaplain sometimes, like we do. Just you're looking down. Where's my boat sitting in the water today? No one's inside your head but you. So you're just asking this question of yourself and not out loud with us right now. Where is my boat sitting in the water? You're just getting aware. Awareness is key in resiliency. I got to know where I am and what's going on with me before I can make choice and have control back. All right, second step. There's only 3 steps if you're getting. Second step is to actively address. Look inside, like, what do I need right now? It would be if we were dealing with the boat, we'd be like, oh, my boat's been through a really bad storm. It's a little beat up today. They're a little beat up today. I had a death yesterday. My boat's got some places on it. But what do you need right now? Now that you're more aware of where you are sitting in the water, is there something you need in this moment? And I'm literally asking about this moment. It could be a basic necessity. It could be, I haven't had lunch and I'm really hungry. It could be, I need water. And I realized that a few moments ago. It could be, you need to go to the bathroom. Maybe you need a short break or a deep breath. Or maybe you just need to be in this moment and relax your shoulders and your jaw. That's it. So we're talking about this very moment. What do I need? Maybe as we're doing this, you realize you're not feeling like your best self today. You're just not. In that case, give yourself some grace and don't be so hard on yourself. Remember that you're a human with a human body. What do you need right now? See if you can identify something that comes up for you. Simple, not grandiose, not I need a Caribbean cruise. What do I need? Relax your shoulders, drink water, go to the bathroom, look at a friend. Third step in resiliency in this is adjusting your perspective. So you're still on your metaphorical boat. I'm asking you to metaphorically look up and out. Even though we're all in our own boats, not like the country western song that says we're all in the same boat. We're not all in the same boat. We all have very different boats for a lot of reasons, but we are all in the same ocean. If there's a storm brewing in the ocean where we're all in our own boats, then others are in that same storm. COVID was a storm we mutually shared. Short staffing is a storm we mutually share. And maybe it's a mutual sharing in your particular place where you work, but you are in the same ocean with the people around you. Can you say to yourself, I'm not in this by myself? As you look up and out metaphorically, can you say to yourself, I'm not in this by myself? And just repeat that inside your head. I'm not alone. Another way to say that. I'm not in this by myself. Another phrase you might say to yourself is, storms happen. Some people replace the storm word with an expletive with 4 letters that starts with an S, but you can do whatever you want in your own head. But storms happen. And just because a storm is happening, it doesn't mean you did something wrong. Storms happen to everybody. Storms just happen. Sometimes in our work as chaplains, it's like, I must have, surely I could have, would have, what? No. Sometimes storms just happen. Say that to yourself. Storms happen. Which tells me it's not my fault. Not always. And finally, if you saw a friend or colleague, or maybe earlier somebody on the screen, if you would imagine seeing somebody else in an overloaded boat near you, what might you say to them? Like you might say to them, I totally got you. I promise you, I got your back. Or maybe you'd say that you've got this. We can do that. We've got each other. We can do this. You might say, I really care about you. I see you. Sometimes I remember that the most when someone sees me, when it's really hard and they just look at me and go, I see you. Very biblical, as you know. Could you imagine saying those things to yourself right now? Saying to yourself, I see you. I care about you. I've got your back, girl. We're going to do this. We can do this. Now take a moment to kind of notice how you're feeling right now. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes if they're closed. And we're going to talk for a moment about this particular tool. And we're small enough, I'm not going to put us in breakouts or whatever. I think everybody's talking. So talk to me for a moment about this. What was helpful about that? Or what was not helpful? You're not going to offend me if you're like, no, that was not helpful. It made me realize how much I'm sinking and I didn't like that. I've had people respond that way before. They're like, this just reminded me of my boat's underwater and I hate it. So, but talk to me, what are some of your experiences with that check-in?
It connected me with my emotion versus my thoughts because I lead with thoughts. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to, realize I'm just kind of sad and that's okay. I get to be sad.
Yeah. Thanks, Wanda. I think that's really important as chaplains because we're so into the emotions of other people around us. I can remember, and this happens to me still. I'm not at the bedside like I was for all those years, but I do this even to this day. I'll get home and go, what's going on? And then I'll be like, oh, I'm sad. Oh, okay. Or sometimes I'll do that and I'll be like, I'm really angry about this. And I've so compartmentalized that, or I've so been in chaplain brain that I'm like, oh, I'm with you. And my jaw is tight because I'm not going to say what I'm really thinking, that I'm really not even in touch with the feeling. And we know in the work that I do, man, if you don't, well, I'll talk about this, feel it to heal it, name it to tame it. There's a lot of research around that. If you don't feel it and let it move through you, it gets stuck. I had a lot of stuck feelings, and I do even to this day. I work with that a lot. So yeah, sometimes I work through my head too, Wanda. I'm a thinker. I'm an ENTJ. So I'm a thinker, and I have to pull into this on purpose. And this check-in is trying to make you pull in. It's like, let me just look. Oh, self. Okay, I'm sad. How about that? All right. Anybody else notice something about your body when we did that? Or emotions or whatever. Anything you notice?
I relaxed a little more.
Okay. Yeah. I think sometimes when I do this, I'll stop and you can do this, like this check-in in like 30 seconds, like literally go, where's my line? What's going on? Oh, other people are, oh, I'm not the only one. Okay. Boom. That's that fast. But yes, sometimes, Carol, I'll notice my shoulders are up and I'll be like, oh yeah, my shoulders are up. I can relax them. And if I do that once during the day, at the end of my 8 to 12 hour shift, depending on the day, I'm a little bit better off. If I do that twice, 3 times, I'm even a lot better off. What I used to do is by the end of the day, I'd be like this, and I didn't even know why, and I didn't even realize it. Whereas if I can just check in once, twice, and lower them physiologically, it changes my body, and it changes the pain in my shoulders. But if I'm not aware of it, I don't do it. Yeah. I laugh about this all the time, and Terry's been in my class before. I talk about this. Like, how many times have you gone all day and you get ready to go to your car and you really have to pee? And you're like, how long have I had to pee? I have no idea how long I've had to pee because I was so disconnected from my body, I didn't even realize. Right? That's the same idea. Yeah. All right, Yanko, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right, so say it for me so I say it correctly, but you're unmuted too.
Yanko.
Yanko. I did do. Okay.
Yes.
What were you going to do?
You did good. Yeah. So I experienced several things. First, I imagined my water line to be a little bit above my belly button. So I'm feeling like a cold sensation. And then when I closed my eyes and did that, it felt like drinking fresh water. So my entire body felt fresher. Instead of hot, it was cooler. But then I immediately something tells me to pull out of it. It's like I didn't have permission or for some reason, something pulled me like you have to be engaged on something. So it felt like, and it was weird. It caught my attention. It's like I was trapped like, this feels good. It feels like a place I need to be, where I want to be, but at the same time, I'm not allowing myself to be. So I had to be engaged back on something. And I opened my eyes and started to do other things. So, and that was a tension. The idea with is like some people call the inner child, like, hey, you're wasting your time, do something else. That is, you cannot relax too much. You have to stay engaged, but I don't have to. So as I said, it seems like an internal tension where I have the ability to do that, to feel better, and the permission, but yet choose not to.
I love your awareness.
That
First of all, physiologically, that's awesome that you could describe it that way. It's beautiful. And yeah, and then just your awareness, like something was like, no, it's not safe. Don't do this. Like, no, we've got other things to do, people. And yet, and I think so many times when we talk about self-care or whatever, our brains are going, we don't have time for this. And I have to say, you can do that. You can do this little quick check-in in 10 seconds, 30 seconds, like quick, just like, where am I? Because if I can check in, I have choice then. Yeah, go ahead.
It reminds me a check-in, a quick check-in, because it's unbelievable, because it's a very good spiritual practice. You just never practice it, right? So only when I'm really deep in the water. But I learned one with another person that's a check-in was to state the name and to say, I'm above the line today, or I'm below the line today. So how that brings awareness immediately. So that was interesting.
And that's how you do with this swim style line, using it in groups. Like I might look at a colleague, if Lynn was my colleague, and go, Lynn, where are you today? And Lynn walks up and goes, she didn't even have to tell me words. She's like, I'm like, okay. And then if I look at you and I see that, I might go, hey, Lynn, is there something, it's just some cargo I can take off. And if she's a typical healthcare person, she's going to go, no, I'm fine. I've got this. And so maybe not so helpful to ask that question. Sometimes they'll say, hey, I might say, you want to talk? Can I take a couple of your patients? Like I might give a direct ask. And sometimes that's more helpful. When I work with nurses, I'll say to a nurse, I had a nurse one time, leaders say, she walks up to people and she said, do you want comfort or construction? And what she means by that is like, she walks up to a nurse at the bedside, like, do you want like me to go, man, it's so hard. You're good. I got you. I know this is really hard. I'll listen. Or do you want me to check the vital signs on your 4 patients and write it down and do the charting? Like that's construction. And I think sometimes as chaplains too, we can look at each other and go, what do you need? And we'll go, I'm fine. Whereas, hey, I see you've been with this family for the last 4 hours. How about I stay with them because I know you're nervous to leave them right now. Go get something to eat, or let me bring you some coffee, so being that sort of practical. But if I don't check in, I don't realize, and I just continue to function. And by the end of the day, I'm really tired. But I can if I look at my colleague, I can ask them, and it's a quick, non-judgmental way. If I'm up here, it doesn't mean I did anything wrong. It's part of being in healthcare. Like they put a lot of cargo on my boat. We have too many patients on this unit. I'm up here. Okay. Yeah. What do you need? I need to pee. I need to get some water. I need to take a breath. I need to look at somebody. Maybe I just need to look at my colleague, Alan, and go, wow, that was a lot. That's it. That doesn't take me 30 minutes in the bathroom having a meditation session. It doesn't. But what it does is it checks me into my humanity. And if I can check into my humanity once, twice, 3 times a day, doesn't matter. Even if it's once. Sometimes I'll set it when I'm really in a bad way. I'll set an alarm on my phone, like check in, move, do this. Because if I'll check in, then I get choice back. I get to be able to make choice and I get control back. And and control, people have mixed feelings about control. But in healthcare, most of our people that we're working with feel very out of control right now. Everything's being done to them. They feel victimized by broken toxic systems. I do too sometimes. So there's this sense of feeling really out of control. And this sort of brings back, and I can go, yeah, you can't stop me from going and doing this right now. I can go pee. I can walk outside for 30 seconds and just feel the rain on my face. It's raining earlier today. And that connects me to my physical body. Okay. What would you use in your daily life? How would you use this and where? I was going to do something else, but we're out of time. But where would you use this in your, I'm talking whether you're in hospice, whether you're at home, whether you're in palliative, what are you thinking? As a team or as, I've sort of given you some ideas, but anybody have any other ideas of like, here's when I think I might use this? Alan, go for it.
Yeah, I'm the chaplain for a couple of little offshoots, like a small group of pharmacy residents, and then another group of dietetic interns, these like groups that exist in our hospital. Nobody knows them, and they're under a great deal of stress. And they have mentors in their own profession, but they're kind of mean to them because they're, preceptors who have all the knowledge and they have no knowledge and they're stupid and they just always feel. And I think this might be good for them. They're a really stressed out group. Young, got the whole world ahead of them, but stressed beyond measure. And so this might be really good to use with them.
Well, I was teaching this to a group of a BIPOC group, and one of the women said to me, she said, "This is like a little act of resistance." And I was like, "Yeah, it is. Stick it to the man." No offense to the men, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna do this regardless of what you're doing to me, and that feels empowering and less victimizing, and that idea, like that last piece of this practice too, thinking about your dietetic interns and your dietitian interns and things like that. That last piece of storms happen. Like, I'm not an idiot. This is hard, and other people are having a hard time too. So, okay, like that last piece can be really significant, especially for those that are newer in their profession. But I will say, I find myself in the same place too. I was like I said, I made a reference. I was at a conference last week called the International Society for Contemplative Research. And I was listening to speakers with my phone, Googling the words they were using because I didn't know the neuroscience words to the extreme. I mean, I learned a lot about the brain in about 4 days. And there was a time when I was looking around going, am I the only one here without a PhD? I think I was the only one in the entire conference that just had a master's degree. But I looked around and I found my people. Like, I found some people going, "Are you overwhelmed?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Me too." I mean, so I found my people, and that helped, because in healthcare, we do get siloed, and we do get to where we feel like we're the broken ones. So the other thing I tell you, Alan, if you're going to teach it, use it, because if you don't, they won't believe you. Like, they'll go, "Thanks," whatever. But if you use it, you're like, "Hey, yeah, I just used this today when this happened to me." And they're like, "Oh," especially learners, because they will hear it and think you're just trying to be the Messiah helping them know the right thing. But if you can say, "I was walking in this morning and I was looking at the number of patients I had on my list, and I was," or whatever, however you in your world, "and I was like, okay, Alan, where are you today? Huh. Okay." And if I'll do this sometimes on a morning like that, I might say, "Okay, I'm going to get coffee," when maybe I would have skipped it, but not today because I just checked in. I'm going to need it. So, but that's, again, back to empowering to myself and choice. Anybody else thoughts? I love your comment about working with that group. Your thoughts, ideas. It sort of these three ideas lay the groundwork for what is really, really important in resiliency. If you're aware of what's happening with yourself, I mean, that's what mindfulness is. I don't use that word as much anymore, just because a lot of the colleagues that I work with and CV surgeons and stuff will be like, "Mindfulness, it's on the cover of Time magazine." They'll be all weird about it. But this is basically what this is. It's awareness. Like, if I can be aware, and I think I spent 25 years not being aware of what was happening with me until maybe my vacation, and I went, "Wow, I'm really exhausted." Well, if I could have recognized like 3 weeks before that or 5 months before, or I wasn't aware I was walking around like this, or I wasn't aware. Usually I was aware if I was snippy. Sometimes I'm not, but I just wasn't aware. And when you get aware, then you get choice. Even if it's a little act of resistance, but you get choice to go, I can do this. If I'm aware at the end of a really hard shift, like when I get home and I'm like, yeah, that was a day. If I'm aware of it, I can go, yeah, I'm not fixing dinner tonight. In fact, we're ordering pizza. Like I can make a choice. I had a couple of residents use this practice with their spouses, and they would come home. There was one particular resident had twins, and his wife was at home with the twins, and he was typical family and or traditional. How about that? Traditional family is a better word I'd rather use. But they had twins at home, and he would come home. He would look at his wife and he'd go, all right, where are we? And she would go, I'm here. All right, pizza it is. And that's all he had to do, because they used that practice mutually at home with each other. And it really helped to kind of just, non-judgmentally go, where are we? Oh, I had a day. And then again, that second piece, awareness, and then addressing, like really doing something. Drink water, look at a colleague, go to the bathroom, something. It's like saying to, and Yanko kind of hinted at this, that little child, it's like going, hey, little one, I see you. And what I think I did as a chaplain, and I do today sometimes, is I look at that little one and I'm like, I'm sorry, we don't have time right now. I know you need to pee, but we don't have time. Just hold it. Like that's what I'm doing to that part of me. And if I can just look in for a moment and go, I see you, Krista, you're tired, you're sad, you're angry. Oh, okay, we can deal with this. Awareness is key. I was really good at not being aware. And then addressing it, like I said, and then adjusting my perspective. That adjusting perspective is key. Adjusting perspective on, yeah, our system is broken. If that's what it is, this isn't about me and our chaplaincy department. This is about, we got a broken system. And then I can go down the path of, oh, and it really sucks. It's really hard. Or I can go down the path of, okay, then what can I be a part of today that gives me a sense of meaning? Because that's this over here. And we're going to talk about that in the next session. What do you do with that when it's so broken and you're trying to exist within it? When I started this work in 2016, I talked to a lot of people who had left healthcare, left chaplaincy, left medicine, because the system was so toxic and broken, and they got healthy and they left. Well, that's not good. We need to stay. So we'll talk more the next session about how do you stay in the middle of it and stay whole or functional and human. And that has a lot to do with our faith, but it has a lot to do with all of the things that we're just talking about. So yeah, we'll get there next time. But hopefully this is helpful to you. Use it, play with it. You'll see me next month and play around with this. Use it with friends, be silly with it, do it fast, do it slow. It doesn't matter. But again, it's get aware, assess and address, and then adjust perspective. Like, can I look at this a little differently? Because if I'm looking like this, I see nothing. If I look like this, oh, wow, there's some other people around me going through this too. Okay. And what would I say to them? Maybe I can say that to myself. We'll look at that as well. All right. I think I'm done, Carol.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you. It is so good to be with you all. The next one is March 8th, and registration will be in your email soon. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks, everybody. This meant a lot to me to be here.